Hello and welcome to another episode of Bravo Outsider. We've got a great show ahead of us. We're ready to talk about Real Housewives of Orange County Season 17, Episode 7, and Real Housewives of New York Season 14, Episode 2. Joining me, as always, is my co-host Dylan Ferguson. Dylan, how's it going?
Great. Stoked.
Awesome.
Minimalist
Stoked
reply
as well.
today.
Yeah. I was waiting for the prop or some sort of sight gag here, but nothing.
Yeah, sorry. I'll come up with something by the end of the show.
I'm sure. Each week we bring on someone who doesn't follow Bravo and get them to watch the episodes in order to get their perspectives. This week joining us is Sean O'Rourke.
Yes. Hello.
I love that one. I that's one of my favorite taglines. We all know it.
Sounded like Luann.
Shouldn't I be like grabbing the mic from someone aggressively?
Yeah, that's how you open Cabaret. Glad to have you back, Sean. You were on for our Vanderpump recap episodes, and I think an episode where we covered New Jersey, and now we've got you here to talk about Real Housewives of New York and Real Housewives of Orange County. Do you have any past experience with either of these shows?
Yeah. Well, first of all, returning champion. Thank you. Orange County for sure.
Yeah.
Maybe like when it was pretty new, like 2011 or 12, Orange County was the Real Housewives show. Actually, Orange County and New York were the two that I sort of kept up with, but then haven't watched in a long time, which is similar to my experience with Vanderpump Rules. But like, I was sort of excited because New York was the one New York and Orange County were the ones I had the most memories of, but particularly the characters in New York. And then, much to my surprise, this whole season is like a hard reboot. But anyway, we're getting ahead of myself. Like, I've got a little bit of experience, but again, not in the past decade, so it's pretty fresh.
So obviously on New York, there's not going to be anyone that you recognize, but on Orange County, were there any characters that you recognize from the time that you were watching it?
I think so. Orange County feels like the most like Stepfordy one, where they're all or mostly the same, like except for I'm blanking on names so far. Emily, who is like, there's a couple that have a different hair color basically, but most of them are all sort of blonde and like look and act the same. So I think Tamra maybe was on, but I'm not confident.
Yeah, Tamra was on like I think season 3 or something like that is when she joined.
In my head, I have the sense that
so yeah, that would make sense.
That her husband at the time, because I think they mentioned her being divorced, but I feel like there's a scene early on of her husband at the time impulse buying 2 watches for $30,000, and me being really mad at that. And I had like a flashback memory, but I don't know if it was Tamara. I might just be throwing that on the first person that I vaguely recognized.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, let's get right into our recaps. Were either of these like more compelling to you? Is there anyone that you want to start with in particular, Sean?
I think maybe let's do Orange County first, because I feel like that one has the more developed set of interpersonal dramas.
Yeah. So, okay. I think that both of these episodes, I think Orange County, there's a bit more to it right now. You can't really fault New York for that since it's just getting going, and it seemed like it was setting up a lot. So, it gets a pass. But yeah, Orange County, I feel like there's a lot to talk about here. Do you want to start with what your highlights were? Or actually, let's start with your first impressions on the Housewives here. Anyone stand out to you?
I think I took the most notes about Emily. I just found her the most interesting. And there is a lot of Emily, like in this episode, you get a lot of shots of her home and stuff. I also get the sense that she might be a bit younger than the bulk of them. Her and the New York one, Gina. Yeah,
Gina.
So yeah, I get the sense that they're a little bit younger. Because like to me, Orange County feels like the Gen X Bravo show to Vanderpump's like millennials. kind of energy. um,
Okay, yeah.
But Emily and Gina, I think, are contra that. Um, most of my notes are just about like weird stuff in her house. Like she has a little nightstand with a mirror on the bottom shelf. And I have no idea why there's a mirror 4 inches off the ground.
You gotta check out your toes.
Yeah, I guess.
You don't
They
check out your
do.
toes before
There
you
is
go
an
to bed?
interesting shot that like the dogs are playing and the camera's low to the ground and catching a mirror. I'm like, oh, that's like as cinematic as this gets. That's pretty neat. But Emily, I think I just felt like the most human, like the least like Stepford robot kind of thing. Like she's talking about her childhood and her relationship with her mom and all that. Um, I also really do like, very minor, but her husband seems like a normal schlubby dude. Like he comes home from work in like a polo shirt and a backpack, which again is so like not the vibe of the rest of the Orange County feel. I think like we're going to take a pink boat to what is clearly a 4-figure bill dinner at Nobu with like Tom Ford candles and all that.
Yeah, it's interesting that Emily's the one that stands out to you in terms of who is kind of like distinct from the Orange County lifestyle. Um I would have pinned that on Gina, just like out of the crew kind of knowing them.
Yeah, we don't really get a lot of
But in this episode, yeah, I have a lot of notes about Gina in this episode because I think that she had a fantastic performance that I want to talk about a bit later. But we didn't get a lot of her backstory for sure in this. It was just kind of her being a very like active housewife socially. Um, but Emily has like this season, she had previously been like a practicing attorney and like was very career driven, and she's kind of stepped back into her like home life and put her career on hold so that Shane can pursue his legal career.
And so that
and it seems
Annabelle
like
can pursue her modeling career.
yeah, exactly, be a full-time momager. But that really seems like she's actually trending towards the real Housewives of Orange County kind of like Stepford Wife mold, and she's kind of ebbing that way as opposed to I feel like she did kind of buck that persona for a long time, but it feels like she's kind of leaning into it this season.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, like not knowing any of the backstory
Yeah, I think so.
on any of this, it's tough to backfill like what all the drama is. I did pull that like every other Bravo show, they're referring to girls trip drama. Seems to be like a big cornerstone of the whole thing.
Yeah, totally. And I think that that's one of the reasons that we got to see a lot of Emily, because she wasn't present on the girls trip, and so now they're kind of like filling out and giving her time. I thought that the scenes that we got between her and Shane at home, where she has this emotional call from her mom, like I don't know, that's kind of sweet. It's not the most compelling thing in the world, but it kind of helps round out her arc this season. So, I'm not mad at it.
Are you sure?
No, yeah, you know what? If this was all that Emily was doing this season, then I'd be like, okay, let's get this over with. Let's
Sure,
move
yeah.
on. But I do think that she is doing some things that are interesting this season, and we see her needle during this like boat trip and like at Naboo, whatever the restaurant is. We see her kind of needling and trying to make stuff happen. So I really appreciate that she is, trying to do something here. Um, I feel like there was a time where she kept like teeing up Tamra to like make digs at Jenn. She was really like, serving up the alley oop to Tamra and really like pumping her tires and trying to get her to like go at Jenn. And it was really effective because we did see that conflict happen on the boat, but we're probably getting ahead of ourselves once we start talking about that scene. So, did you have any other thoughts on the cast here, or did you want to jump into your highlights?
I'm gonna go to my highlights, I guess. I think like I'm sure it's a highlight for everybody, but like the weakest napkin throw of all time to start a fight. Really, really love that whole scene.
Have you ever seen a strong napkin throw?
I've seen stronger than that.
Napkin's not an easy thing to throw.
But you can ball it up a little bit. You can get some get like that trebuchet action. You could throw it harder than just sort of like wafting it over while yelling at someone. That whole thing, like the whole thing of that's Tamra, right? Throwing it in the napkin and then like storming out and like coming back in like I need tequila to nobody in particular is like really good TV. Love that whole scene.
Yeah. This was a like a definite highlight for me, and I think one of the most interesting things during this whole episode to happen was not just the napkin throw, but kind of the like the fallout from it. Because I think yes, it was like a great TV moment for Tamra to create. She really leaned into that, but I think that she kind of exposed herself and gave some opportunity because like she shouldn't have left the table is what I'm trying to get at. She should not have left the table after that. She should have like stayed at the table and like stepped on Jenn's neck to like finish her off and make like Jenn storm out so that she wasn't the one to like storm off, because as soon as she did, Gina immediately capitalized on this. And while she was like outside of the restaurant or doing whatever she was doing with Shannon, the deck was reshuffling real fast at that table, and there's all sorts of alliances that were like, the relationships were changing so fast, and like everyone was talking. And if Tamra was there, that wouldn't have happened, and Tamra could have like stayed on top of what was happening socially within this group. But she left. And
my favorite part about that is that when she comes back, she asks that acting coach who's like randomly there and barely knows anybody for a recap. She's like, kind of like, what did I miss? The acting coach is like, okay, yeah. So Gina was saying that she feels like she's a fake friend, because it's so great that she just turns to her for a recap. I love that bit.
Yeah, that's amazing. It also speaks to like Tamra's sense about being a housewife. Like it seems like she like hurried back to that table once she kind of realized that maybe I need to be present for the fallout on this, and like immediately turned to someone who has really no skin in the game to like okay, can you like catch me up in an unbiased way?
Also, she immediately switches from like throwing a napkin at somebody to like satirizing the fact that she threw a napkin, like with like Jenn still sitting right there fuming. It's just, I love how like quickly things move in Tamara's mind. It's just like popping balls all over the place, like one of those little kids' toys where you push the little like fake vacuum and balls are popping. Just it's just constantly shifting in her mind. She is such a chaotic mind. It's so beautiful. I loved watching Tamra's performance throughout that whole thing. I love watching her go to the bar and saying to some random guy, "I hope you get snatched tonight." I love, and I love that now that like Shannon's like made up with Tamra, Shannon's just like her like sidekick, just like trotting around, being like slightly shocked and befuddled, and being like, "Oh, you shouldn't have said that. Oh, you shouldn't have done that," the whole time while she's just going off, just being a fucking nut.
Yeah, Shannon is the Rick to Tamara's Morty.
I thought that this scene was amazing. I thought we got like one of the best confessionals of the episode was when Emily was like, how many napkins need to smack you in the face before you say something negative about Tamra?
Because it's more than one.
Yeah. One other thing that I really liked about this scene was how Gina handled Heather. Like, I've said it like many times on this podcast so far. I think that Gina's just having like such a fantastic season, both like coming across very authentic in how she's managing relationships, but also it's like very strategic. I think she's seeing the playing field for what it is, and she's really knowing how to kind of like handle the relationships. And I think she does a really good job with Heather here. She comes pretty close to like almost overplaying it a bit, because it seemed like she was like really dwelling on things, but I think she got her point across to Heather really well, and she made sure that she got like confirmation from Heather, and Heather was like, yes, I hear what you're saying, and like
Mhm.
I'm going to work on that. I think like she did a great job of kind of reestablishing the foundation of a like really mutually beneficial relationship with Heather strategically if Heather continues on this show, and um building up a side of pawns that she's able to manipulate to make things happen in this world.
I think it was a really good move to reconcile with Jenn as well too for Gina. I don't totally agree with you that she's been having a great season. I felt that her season's been a little rough because I feel like um, she's been trying to work it. She's been trying to stir shit, cause problems, which is good. But I feel like she's been doing it in kind of an artless way where it feels like she's just not minding her own business, and she's been getting a lot of blowback for it. And I think she's been kind of deserving the blowback because she's been indelicate about it. But this episode in particular, I agree that I think she's been doing a good job getting kind of mending fences and getting in a stronger position. And I think that like butting heads with Jenn over, and that's the other thing that I find a little bit hard to like about Gina is that her criticisms have been like very like judgy and Puritan, I feel, and that's just
Very, yeah, self-centered.
sure, yeah, and I think like her attacking Jenn based on like I understand that you've been somewhat um indiscreet in your relationships, or in like that's a no-go for me. It's triggering for me, and I get that it comes from a personal place, so I just add that. But I thought it was a bad look for her because it's also burning bridges and makes her look like just like very judgmental. And so for her to like make a huge effort to like bury the hatch with Jenn, I thought was a good move for her. Um she needed that ally back, and I agree that when she gets like really into needling Heather and gets Heather to like concede that she was wrong, that was a strong move as well. Heather was kind of being a punching bag this whole episode, and she deserved it because Heather said some bullshit in the past couple
Yeah.
episodes. And to Gina, especially, like when she said that shit about yeah, your boyfriend's probably tired of putting up with your shit or whatever the fuck she said. Like she said some dumbass shit. So like if she's been taking her blows this episode, she's deserved those blows.
Yeah, and I think she's handled them well. Like she's like taken them and um in stride.
Mhm.
But just to like come to Gina's defense a little bit again, I feel like she's not that far removed from this infidelity with this is still like fresh, and this relationship is still kind of like feeling
Yeah.
itself out. Like she only joined I think 3 or 4 seasons ago, and she was married at that time, so
Mhm.
it's not like she's so far removed that this is like so astounding that it would be very like triggering for her. It comes
Mhm.
across as like more honest to me.
Sure.
I think she is using it strategically too, but like it does feel like an authentic like thing that upsets her.
I don't begrudge her having like a kind of traumatic reaction to something in her past. I begrudge her using that against Jenn because it's like that's a YP, right? Like that's not like if you're triggered by Jenn, it's like not it's because of problems that you've had in your life, which is like which are real things and deserve sympathy and all that. But it's not it's you shouldn't be taking that out on somebody else because they've had like a bit of infidelity in their life. It just feels very like judgmental to be like you shouldn't. I don't want to be around you because it's like knowing things about your life is triggering to me. It's
Yeah.
like you need to figure out how to work on that on yourself. It's something that you need to own and figure out how to deal with, rather than like accusing other people as though they're aggressing you with their existence because of their like personal history.
Yeah, in the real world, yes, but this is Real Housewives.
Right.
So but actually, like I feel like she wouldn't be able to get away with this, and people wouldn't like stand up for it, and she would be getting a lot more blowback that she would deserve if if Jenn were playing her hand better and being a bit stronger.
Mhm.
We just posted a video on our YouTube channel where we were talking about this a couple episodes. We got a clip where we're talking about the weak decisions that Jenn is making and how she could be using this situation and in a way to make stronger choices and go on the offense a little bit. But she's just turtling and not doing anything with it, and just like letting people kind of get their punches in, as opposed to, taking these attacks and judoing them, or aikido, or whatever the one where you flip people around is.
Judo's the one where you use
that's
their
what we
momentum
really
against them.
want to see.
And then aikido's the one that Steven Seagal does.
So judoing. That's the magic one, right?
Yeah, aikido is magic, and if it's so magical that it'll make a stunt man choke you out until you poop yourself. So the story goes. I don't know if you've heard that one, but it's not Bravo.
We'll do a video essay on that specific thing on Bravo Outsider.
Invite me on to Seagal Outsider. I want to do that.
Yeah.
Oh, don't tempt me.
But she could be using these attacks and turning them around. She could be like, well, that's your problem, and then using this as a position to attack back. And
she does that a little bit with Tamra, right? When she insinuates that Tamra was also sort of hidden on Ryan. His name's Ryan, right? Yeah, and then she only seeds the idea, and I think that's actually a strong move, to just seed the idea and then not look like you're being petty, grasping at straws by trying to force it, to just kind of imply yeah, you know what I'm talking about, but I'm not going to say anything more because I'm being the bigger person and not being crazy like you. I think that's also a strong look too.
Yeah, I can see that. I don't think she's in the position to play that softly right now. I think it's too late for her to, to do that. Maybe, it's easy for us to say as, from the outside looking in, but I think at this point she needs to come out strong. And anytime there's someone that is saying, oh, well, you know what, Gina, maybe you're being a bit unreasonable here, that's the opportunity that you have to really go on the attack when you've got people rallied around you. But she didn't do that on the Montana trip, and she hasn't done that any other time that we've seen her do that. We haven't really the fact that she's doing this against Tamra, just ever so slightly, but still not saying anything negative and not being very offensive with it. It seems like it's too little too late against a foe that is too strong. Tamra already has so many people on her side that are, that at the very least, if they're not on her side, they're not going to want to immediately come to Jenn, of all people's defense. In this, there's nothing that she can really provide them. It's interesting that maybe the most likely person to do that would be Gina, and that's the other person that she has a very stressed relationship with.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Sean, do you have other highlights here?
Mostly just small stuff. In terms of the blow up at the restaurant is my big scene highlight. But I really so I'm just perusing my notes to find his name. There's the guy who loves to grill, that boyfriend that we only get a glimpse of, John, maybe. He seems very aware of the camera.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But the little scene we get of him and Shannon, where they're making dinner, and she keeps opening the fridge and something keeps falling out. And there's something wonderful, small domestic scene that just, I don't know, had me cracking up. This is this moment where she's talking about them getting another dog and stuff. And she said, I worry about another responsibility. And it's yeah, you can't even open the fridge right.
I'm not sure if you guys watched the same version of this that I did, but it had this almost pop-up video style commentary on it. Yeah, I thought that the pop-ups were really painting John as being unreasonable, and it was coming up next, John is going to avoid commitment, and it was just him being very reasonable.
It was called never before seen, SCENE.
Yeah,
but that's why are you giving me a pop-up with a poor condensing of information you're going to show me 2 seconds from now. Like, I don't understand what the purpose of that
and
was.
very biased. Like,
yeah.
I didn't get that he was like avoiding commitment. He was like very reasonable about.
Well, okay. John had the funniest moment of the whole episode for me, where when Shannon started to get like a little serious, and she seemed to be like very getting in a pensive mood, and she's like staring off into space, and then John is sitting across from her, and he says, and I quote, "Okay, steak." And stands up and walks towards the grill.
That's his culture. He's like a middle-aged guy. It's like
so funny.
Those little pop-ups are like an executive summary for someone who didn't have time to watch the episode. Like, just tell me what I'm supposed to feel. Okay,
yeah.
Hate John, Heather, psychopath, whatever.
But like, was this not unreasonable? Like, Shannon does have like so much stuff going on. Like, why are you frantically trying to add another dog when you've already got 2 dogs?
She's got to worry about the college.
Too many dogs.
Address that question. Address that why she feels that way. Like, interact with it in some way instead of just saying steak and shuffling off.
You can't tackle these tough questions before getting some protein in you.
True. Yeah, you got to nourish the old think bone.
I think like John knows when Shannon is wearing something that hasn't off-gassed enough, and he's just not going to engage.
Okay, what? Yeah, this consignment store scene blew my mind. The whole off-gassing thing, like everybody has a thing they're weird about. Fine, okay, you're gonna buy secondhand clothes, sure, knock yourself out. But then they go and they're like, they get like a sweatshirt and a bag. It's like $3,300.
Oh yeah, the first thing was insane.
What?
You're paying for the off-gassing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I take it the off-gassing thing is like a running theme with her, or did it just come up? So this was brand new information.
It just came up. Yeah, okay. This is brand new.
Amazing. Yeah, I could not follow it. I was like Googling, like, is off-gassing real? Like, what? It got me worried for a minute before I was like, I don't need to base any of my experience with the world on Real Housewives of Orange County and their concerns.
Especially on what Shannon believes.
Yeah.
Shannon seems very far into woo-woo shit, which is great. Good for her. I mean,
yeah.
I want to know what kind of targeted ads you're getting now, Sean, after that Google search.
Oh my God. Between watching stuff like for talking to you guys and all the other stupid shit I have to Google, it's a nightmare. I'm getting a lot of Japanese ones lately. I assume from like, I don't know, watching movies and the phone microphone. But anyway.
Any other highlights, Sean?
Okay, yeah, we covered the consignment. No, I think those are the main ones for me. Just the whole conspicuous, like I know the Bravo universe, conspicuous consumption is like a big part of it's part of the fun, but this one's like on another level. Like I think I met Nobu and the Tom Ford candles and the silver chopsticks with the oh, by the way, what do we think the actual Japanese idiom for too fabulous to shovel shit is? Like, was it a literal
she
translation?
Asked somebody to do that, and they were like, whatever. They just wrote like some random shit because they knew that nobody's ever going to check up on it.
Yeah. There was like someone on Fiverr that got that gig come across and was like, what the fuck is this?
It's just part of the credits to Akira that someone put on there.
Dylan, what were your highlights from this episode?
If we could just go back to the scene with Emily a little bit. First of all, I do think the delivery on the part of Annabelle was awesome when Emily mentioned that they want to get slip and slides, and she says, "For women."
Yeah.
Good showing from Annabelle there. But my favorite part, Sean, you mentioned that there is like a lot of great dogs. Always on the lookout for dogs. You know, they love a dog insert in these shows. They love to get some B-roll of a dog and stitch them in. Often one of my favorite parts in all time are in the Emily scene when they show the dog with a coat on his head,
Togo.
and he just looks like the most depressed dog you've ever seen. Yeah, Togo. And then, but the best part is like later on, they like start to get a little more emotional. She's talking about her mother. She's going to get off the other room to talk on the phone, and then we just get one more little shot of him still standing next to the door, still not being let in, still looking like the most depressed dog on earth. Just a little little insert of him just staring at you, and then no, we're done with that. That was just a beautiful little insert of the world's saddest dog that people are laughing at, but never letting him inside, which is clearly all he wants.
Speaking of great dog content, how about the show opener where we got Ryan in his cowboy, his cute little cowboy costume with his straw in his mouth, and Tamra hands him his dog's ashes.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask, because not having any context here, is that Ryan always a cowboy, or is that did he just get back from Montana with them, or what's the deal there?
That's new this season. He's a cowboy now.
Oh, okay. A rich
showed
kid
up at a party they were having and just strolled in dressed in cowboy gear, and everybody's like, "Hey, he's a cowboy now." It was so great. It was so amazing.
His last costume was MAGA Ryan. He was very very into the Make America Great Again, and
was he a January 6th?
A weird dude. Probably.
Don't check the tape. My favorite person in this episode was Shannon. I thought Shannon was amazing this episode, and I just really liked the sentiment she expressed when everybody's there's a lot of criticism going towards Jenn because Jenn's seeing this guy who is 110% going to cheat on her and 120% already has cheated on her and will again. And everybody knows it, including presumably Jenn on some level also knows it. But Shannon unexpectedly mounting a very emotional defense of her embracing this relationship regardless. When she says, on the verge of tears in a confessional, Jenn may be an idiot, but let her figure that out on her own. That sounds like a dig in isolation, but the way she says it with passion, and she says it with feeling, and she says it with tears in her eyes.
Like a parent.
I felt that. But that's a real sentiment that needs to be expressed. Yeah. Honestly, it is. Sometimes you gotta just do a fucked up relationship with a fucked up person because that's what you need. Maybe she is getting what she's getting out of this. A good sex, feeling important, feeling like she's the center of his world, getting some sort of validation. Maybe what she's getting is actually worth the price that she's going to inevitably pay down the line. That's a hard conversation to have, but I feel like Shannon's gesturing towards that, and she says something about that's actually just what I want, is somebody to make me feel that important kind of thing. And if it ends up being something painful down the line, maybe that's a trade-off that's sometimes worthwhile. And I thought seeing Shannon express that sentiment and being very emotional about it was kind of moving and unexpected, and I really liked that a lot. I thought I found it touching.
Yeah, that's true. That is totally a great take. And I think we didn't see what Jenn's relationship was like prior to coming on this show with her husband. Who knows? She's already probably received a lot from this relationship with Ryan in terms of it giving her the power to leave a relationship that she was ultimately unhappy in. There's a lot of things that you can get out of a relationship that aren't necessarily the things that you immediately think about as being a benefit. And you're right. I think that is something that Shannon kind of hints towards and seems to embrace. So yeah, that's a really good observation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that was my favorite part. And also just once again, going on a boat wearing the worst possible footwear for being on a boat. Why do they keep doing that? Somebody is literally going to break their ankle before this show's over. I cannot believe they keep doing that.
I think we covered most of my highlights. Either of you guys have any other thoughts before we move on to New York?
Heather's terrible fucking dress that she wears to Nobu, where she looks like she's dressed like a bad Greek restaurant. What was that? All these like a pastiche of like welcome to Florida postcards or something. It was such a weird print. Absolutely insane. That's about it.
Awesome. Well, let's get into Real Housewives of New York. Before we get into highlights, Dylan, I'm curious, do your power rankings of the Housewives of New York change after watching this episode?
I don't think so. No, I mean, I don't think I power ranked all of them. I think I mostly just said that I thought like Jenna followed by Ubah were the ones who came out best. And after a second episode, my opinion hasn't changed. Like,
Yeah.
I do think basically through 2 episodes, we are watching the Jenna Lyons show, and with like a very fun supporting turn by Ubah being fucking a bizarre human being,
Yeah.
and nobody else has come out and stood forward yet. It's the second episode that will come, I'm sure, but
Yeah.
wait and see. But for now, we're getting like a lot of like for me like really good emotional content from Jenna, who's like such an immediately distinctive person, and then like a bunch of other women like being there.
I'm still like, we didn't see Brynn basically at all this
Mhm.
No,
episode,
she really
which I
wasn't
was
in.
disappointed by.
Friend of the show.
But yeah, friend of the show. But we're gonna see her next week, according to the previews. So pretty stoked about that. But I would agree, like Jenna Lyon and Ubah are the two kind of standouts from this episode. And then in terms of like the rest of the women that we did see here, I feel like I like what Jessel is bringing to this. I'm still like kind of unsold on Aaron and Sai.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't like Sai hasn't been given a lot of opportunity. She hasn't had like a lot of screen time, and we're seeing her like kind of take advantage of the screen time that she's getting, but it still has been a little flat for me. But Aaron has
Yeah.
been getting a lot of camera time, and it's not like, I don't know, I'm not very engaged by her yet.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that.
Yeah, Erin feels
Um,
like replacement level at this point, housewife. Like you could plug any old housewife in there.
Mm-hmm.
Again, with
yeah,
two
totally.
episodes.
Yeah, still early in the season. A lot of baseball left. Uh, Sean, what were your highlights here?
Well, I agree that Jenna and Ubah are like sort of in a league of their own as the most interesting so far. I really like. I love everything about Ubah. How Ubah's like she's like an alien who's come to Earth and is like just delighting. Like, do you guys ever see that I Think You Should Leave show, the motorcycles sketch? I hope I don't have to go into quoting
I
this
haven't seen
sketch
that
show.
one.
Okay, well, forget that. She's like a very like pure and innocent space alien who's just like delighting in the world around her, and it's just like so like fun to watch. I can't take my eyes off Ubah. Like that little mission she goes on to get a sandwich at Provisions that she's been talking about the
Yeah.
whole ride. And there's this shot following her, and she's like so excited that she can smell it, and then it's closed. And like, and when she goes and
What was she smelling?
right? just the Hamptons. When they go, she goes into like the walk-in at that restaurant and takes a can of coconut milk, but she's like, oh my god, you can never find this coconut cream anywhere. Look,
Yeah.
you have to get
It's like, what? It's just regular coconut milk.
You live in New York City and you can't go get a can of coconut milk?
I'm sure you could go to any bodega and pick that off the
Right?
shelf, but she's never been to a bodega, so she doesn't know.
Yeah, like it's 9:30 at night in Winnipeg, and I could walk down the street and get a can of coconut milk. But like,
Yeah.
love just everything about Ubah is amazing.
Yeah.
Her proud starfish status. My other big highlight is, in a nutshell, Jenna, but it's this one moment in particular. This is great juxtaposition where Jenna's talking about her mom had, I guess what at the time would have been Asperger's. And it's like, I think it's like a pretty good emotional confessional, like describing how her mom was diagnosed late in life. And like, yeah, I get a lot of like sympathy for that. Like, it's got to be really hard growing up, hard for the mom, hard for the kid. And then we cut right to Aaron being like, basically like, yeah, we like Jenna, but her mom was a bitch and raised her wrong, and sometimes she acts like a bitch. Like the two how to do and not do autism awareness in 2 shots. I also so I do have a note written here that says, before I had their name straight, high levels of sympathy for autistic fashionista. And then right under that is the note where she explains that her mom has Asperger's, and it's just me writing the word
You know what? I literally did the same thing in my notes. Literally, like in the first like 10 minutes of the episode, I wrote a note that says that says Jenna has strong autism vibes, in parentheses complimentary.
Yes, yeah, that's what I mean.
and then later on, when she talks about her mom having Asperger's, it made it a lot more significant and deeper. Like I guess what I mean when I say that it's not like in like a medical diagnosis sense, it's just that she's got this very compelling combination of like assured confidence while also being like really insecure at the same time, like somehow simultaneously very insecure and very confident in a way that like to me reads as like autism vibes in like in a compelling, interesting way that I like. And then when you see her as somebody who is the child of somebody who had autism that wasn't like diagnosed at the time, and that the way that she like really struggled with her childhood because of that, and then you imagine her like being afraid of that part of herself too, because she doesn't want to be somebody who doesn't care, the way that she saw her mother as being somebody who doesn't care. And that is just one of the many things that feed into this portrait we get of Jenna in this episode, which is a very rich one. Like we really get to see
totally.
her we get to see a lot of her for like, one single episode that's like really, really interesting.
Yeah, you get a lot of like
Yeah.
stuff with her mom and like her like kind of being forced to come out, and like all in like a
Mhm.
few scenes you get so much of Jenna.
Yeah, and the way that she discusses discovering that she's gay as an adult was really fascinating to me. Like really just like an interesting conversation of like the way somebody deals with their own sexuality, and just like how like how way more complex those kind of things are than we generally think they are. It was just like a really, really interesting conversation to me.
Yeah, totally. And I love how openly she like wears her wounds from everything. Like when there's I think it's like a flashback clip where they're talking about when her mother passed away, shortly after her mother passed away, and I think it might have been Jessel, or her mother was like, oh, were you guys close? And she's like, no, not at all. And like just like really like presenting these battle scars that she's got very openly, and I really appreciate that within a reality star. And I thought it was interesting the contrast that we get, because at the dinner she talks about how she is seeing someone that it seems serious, but she doesn't want to bring them on the show, which is very, very uncommon for someone who is a full like Apple holder or whatever they hold on any of the other franchises, to not show their partner that part of their home life is very uncommon. But I can't really fault Jenna for not, because she's giving us like so much of herself on this in these first 2 episodes at least, that I don't feel like I'm only getting half of the picture. I feel like we're getting a very full picture of Jenna Lyons.
Yeah, and as somebody who was again like publicly outed basically against her will, you could understand why she would be a little cagey about these things, while also wanting to be a reality TV star, which is a great duality of her of her persona.
Yeah, and I really I thought the story of that she told about how she was outed, and how she the words just came out of her mouth where she confirmed it to the Post. I thought that was a I don't know, I thought it was very interesting, and I thought the way she told that story was like there was great tension in it, and it was just compelling, and I don't know, just a great story.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
Yeah. Oh, my other like little highlights, when they go to the restaurant, and Ubah has to face north or face away from north, whatever it is. There's two amazing things.
She's just
in that
moss.
scene.
She's literally
Yeah,
moss.
because it's true north. That's her whole explanation. But the two little amazing things that stand out to me is, I don't know who, but someone's like, "Oh, like, is that Mecca?" I'm like, what? And then the other one, I don't remember who, but it might be in the confessional, and someone's like, "Of course, Ubah's going to bring a compass to the restaurant." No, she brought her phone. She didn't bring it's not like, oh, the weirdo brought a compass. She brought an iPhone to the restaurant.
Yeah, and she's like, "I have a compass on my phone." I'm like, I have an iPhone 5 and has a compass on it. Right. Like, it's not a
cool.
new thing. Yeah. No, of course.
Any other highlights, Sean?
I do like. I really appreciate the spirit of is it Jessel? Teasing for next time, because it's new season. They don't have, there's not like a rich backstory of dramas. So in the tease where they're like creating the drama, just really love the fighting spirit to go out there and create that about the Grinch Christmas tree lingerie.
Yeah.
Okay, you know what? Though, in Jessel's defense, that was a terrible fit for her. It looked bad.
I agree.
Her.
No, I totally
It was a bad
agree.
choice.
Yeah, like
because I see like they're trying to make it out into a thing like she's being a bitch to Jenna. Okay, I get it, but also it did look really bad on her. It was poorly picked for her.
She got the worst one. Yeah,
you could see how it like completely changed her posture when she put it on. Like she's like hunched over and like so insecure and like feeling awful about it. I felt bad for her, but I'm very excited to see what sort of conflict this creates.
Yeah,
and also to like spend the whole episode being like, "Ha, you don't fuck your husband," and then give her like the frock of lingerie.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of mean.
Here's your cloak.
Yeah. Maybe your husband will fuck you if he doesn't have to look at any of your skin.
Yeah, which is true. When she's talking about like she's insecure about her cesarean scar, and they're like, maybe you could cover it up. I'm like, is that the best answer? Maybe you could wear a shroud with a hole in it. Okay, guys, come on.
Okay, we need to reboot this series again.
Yeah.
Dylan, what were your highlights from this?
I don't believe the caviar caterers are real professional caviar caterers. I don't believe that exists. I think
she's the caviar mermaid, actually, and she was on Watch What Happens Live.
Really?
Yeah.
Wait, why is she a mermaid?
That's the name of her business.
Are there her own eggs? Just color me intrigued.
If we post this on Instagram, she's gonna have to rebrand. That's awful.
I thought those were just like two kids from the neighborhood that she hired to go get Pringles at the corner store at Provisions.
I assume that there are two people who like just put out a bunch of like bullshit like Craigslist ads waiting to get any hit. Just being like, yeah, we're the foie gras specialists if you want to answer this ad. Like,
they're actually like performance artists.
Yeah. And then whatever somebody answers to, they'll be like, okay, yep, sure. We'll get a couple of tins from the store and show up and like, and just talk some mumbo jumbles and be like, yeah, we picked up a tube of Pringles. So this is a thing.
It's literally just caviar on Pringles and caviar on like cucumbers and maybe some cream cheese or something.
Yeah, which I mean, caviar is great. So I guess
sure,
you can put it on a lot of things, but it's like a professional caviar consultant. Is that really? All right, I'll let it slide. Do you
know what a ghost kitchen is? Like on the delivery services. Okay, yeah. So maybe it's like that, except that's kind of the
that's
high
for like
end.
Fleecing rich people in the Hamptons.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, actually, I've changed my mind. I love them.
Yeah, you know what? I do think caviar is great. I love caviar, but I do think it's really funny to be like in somebody's house and you're really hungry, and they're just like, we only have caviar on individual Pringles.
Yeah.
Eat as much as you like, but that's the only thing you can eat.
Yeah.
It's just really funny.
Got it on regular and dill pickle.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the one thing I don't like much about Jenna is her aversion to dill.
Yeah, me too. What do you got?
The only thing about Jenna that's not relatable.
Say it to my fucking face, Jenna. Other than that, I would just like a few more highlights from Ubah being the most bizarre, ethereal weirdo. She very briefly said that she smoked weed once and ended up in the hospital.
Yeah.
What were you doing? What were you doing so wrong?
Doesn't she say it like, I smoked weed once? No, hospital, or something to that effect?
Yeah. She says something about like how they used to tell the time back in the day. She's like, they used to use the sun. They'd lick a finger and hold it up. Like, girl, what? Those are two different things.
You can still use the sun to tell you what time of day it is.
Yeah, like just lick up a finger, or like a finger and hold it up.
Or if you want to know where north is, you can like use the sun.
There's a very brief clip of her near the end eating an orange in the most fucked up way I've ever seen somebody eating an orange. I don't know if you noticed it. It was like a second long, but she's holding like half an orange and smushing it and like pouring the juice and pulp into her mouth, which is just very strange. Yeah. Yeah, that's about it. Oh yes, all the shots of women slurping oysters while Jen is talking about discovering that she's gay it was also good work. Yeah.
Oh, it's really refreshing to have sorry to interject, but to have a Housewives universe with two people who don't drink, because like I feel like these shows run on alcohol.
Yeah, that's true. I think it's becoming a little bit more common. Like we're seeing at least one person that is sober on most of these casts because they've got like a history of alcohol, and that's kind of got them where they are. But that was noticeable for sure.
It's refreshing.
Did you guys have any other highlights here?
That covers it for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that about covers most of what I wanted to talk about. I did want to circle back to Jessel mentioning that she hadn't had sex in like 2 years. I'm curious as to what you think about, if this cast was not like a cast of pure rookies, if this would play out any differently than it has. Like, I feel like here it is, it's notable. It's making for an episode of content, but I get the sense that it's going to be mostly dropped and not discussed again. But if this was a cast with, if Jessel was the only rookie on the cast, I feel like that is going directly into someone's back pocket to make a big deal of in order to, use in some way, whether it's a deflection from some of their own shit or, if they need something to really like make a deep cut on Jessel for.
Yeah, I can see that coming up again. I think you shouldn't underestimate the possibility that comes up again in a feud. That and the fact that Jessel apparently was just like, eventually married her roommate.
Yeah,
which is
that's far more damaging.
He was just there. Yeah, exactly. For me, that's the bigger indictment. That like he was just there long enough that eventually her parents were like, well, you know what, you might as well. And she was like, okay.
Yeah. Good enough.
Yeah.
I wonder why they're
this
not
is
fucking.
a rough This is a rough episode for Jessel because we also had a scene where Jenna like calls out her fashion choice. She calls her like a fashion victim.
She was wearing 2 brand names on her at the same time.
Even I know
she's a fashion influencer or something like that.
Yeah. As Jenna says, like she's a fashion influencer. Yeah, Jessel got her licks in this episode for sure.
Well, yeah, I'm excited to see how she responds because I do think that she is like a pretty just likable. She has a very likable personality. So um, I want to see her rebound from this and make some waves. Overall, I think this is a very likable cast for the most part. Everyone seems fun and engaging, so excited to see what comes.
Yeah, I'd see in this episode, it's like Aaron is like the closest thing to a villain or a heel, but just kind of reaching to like create some drama. Everyone's still finding their voice, I think.
Before we close things out here, I want to try a new segment at the end of our shows where we identify something that is hunky-dory and something else that should rot in hell. It can be multiple things or it can be one thing. We'll just kind of go around the horn. Dylan, we'll start with you. Do you have anything that is hunky-dory or can rot in hell?
Jenna's vintage Mercedes is hunky-dory as far as I'm concerned. That was pretty. I'm not necessarily a car guy by any means, but that was pretty slick. A vintage Mercedes that I really liked, and I really like that she follows it up with stepping out of it wearing the worst fucking jeans I've ever seen, which I assume is some sort of a steerage. So I'll give her marks for that, I guess.
Yeah, totally.
Who is hunky-dory?
Yeah, agreed. Jenna Lyons is hunky-dory, or her car is very hunky-dory.
And she is too. Just a great showing from her.
Yeah.
in all ways.
Sean, how about yourself?
Well, I do have to say Pringles and caviar does seem like a hunky-dory combination to me. So I do have to shout out the like expensive stoner food.
Yeah, very,
Who is
very hunky-dory. This is just an excuse for me to play these clips. By the way, like it doesn't have to be related to Bravo at all what you pick. If it's just something else that you want to plug or something else that you want to like gripe about,
a quick
it can be that.
A quick rod in hell to the AMPTP and the Universal executives who apparently trimmed the shade trees. Out from over the
rod in hell. Rod in hell.
Raw hair. Why did that come out Cockney? I just wish I was Brittany. And you know, I think they got fined like $250 for that or something, which is there's another rotten hell moment from the city of Los Angeles.
For sure. Yeah, that'll stop them.
Yeah.
I've got a few things written down here. So first,
we're gonna be here for an hour.
Yeah.
I got a lot of problems with you people.
First off, Lance Bass is hunky-dory.
Who is hunky-dory?
What did he do?
So,
just in general.
So I was, sure, just in general. But I got like a notification on Instagram that Lisa Vanderpump was going live, which is something that like has never happened to my knowledge. So I like jumped on, and it was actually Lance Bass. He was showing Lisa and Ken how to like go on Instagram live, and like, it was like showing your parents how to use the app. It was it was really amazing. So he is hunky-dory. He's probably going to get accused of putting a virus on their computer for doing that if he's anything like my parents, but the other thing that is hunky-dory, Bethenny Frankel, hunky-dory. She is advocating for a reality TV star union, which is something that we talked about on a past episode that we had with Comrade Britt of Soy Trek. Glad to see her speaking out about this because it's definitely something that I think would be beneficial, offer these people the protections that they deserve. We're seeing the impact that a union can have within Hollywood, and the reality TV industry definitely needs this. So it's awesome to see. There has been a little bit of like blowback against Bethenny because on some of the reality shows that she produced, she had contracts that were, not exactly the most, worker friendly. And yeah, I think that, she deserves to be held accountable, but also I feel like the fact that she doesn't, pass a purity test, that shouldn't undermine the fact that, this is what she's advocating for now. It is important that this gets established. And I don't think that we should be looking for ways to undermine the movement just because one of the loudest voices is, that doesn't pass that purity test. Like, yes, hold them accountable, but also, like, let's leverage the platform that they have and work towards, creating better conditions for the workers. So Bethenny Frankel, her work is hunky-dory for me. People that
Absolutely.
are trying to undermine the labor movement can rot in hell.
Totally. And we when the writer's strike started, we, like you mentioned, Craig, and we had a couple episodes where we discussed it, and the way that reality TV has kind of a noxious history as being used as a strike breaker form of television for that. But the other side of that is that now that we've got an actors strike going on, the reality TV performers typically aren't part of SAG. They aren't part of the actors unions either, and that's something that needs to change. And they need to be recognized as unionized actors and potentially as unionized writers. If nobody else in the show is going to be getting those credits, then maybe the performers themselves should be getting the writers credits, and there should be the best way for reality TV to like overcome its stigma as being like anti-labor television is for the people within the industry to work hard to unionize their sector of the industry, as untraditional and difficult as it might be. And if Bethenny is leading the charge, more power to her. That's awesome.
Yeah, totally. The last thing is, who is hunky-dory? Raquel, or Rachel.
hunky-dory?
Sorry, she prefers to go by Rachel now officially. So,
really?
I prefer to call her Raqueen.
She's always Rocky, the fighter for me. So, but she is hunky-dory for, in my opinion, making the difficult choice to surrender her dog to a trainer with 40 years of experience to try to avoid, Graham being euthanized after biting her mom. This would have been a very like difficult decision to make, and there are people that are twisting this and manipulating it to make it seem like this is Puppygate 2.0. Like we've got another Lucy apple juice situation here. Because apparently during the Vanderpump Rules cast trip in Tahoe last week, Lisa Vanderpump found out that Graham had, in one way or another, ended up in a shelter and brought him to James. And now James has custody of Graham and has rebranded him as Hippie, the dog. He's no longer
He
Graham.
changed Graham's name.
Graham's
Yeah,
like
and
such a good dog name.
It is.
but so the reports on this seemed very biased, because it was like James was reunited with Graham in Tahoe, and according to our source, he is in puppy lessons, and they're already working and curing his biting. It's like, how did he cure aggression in a dog in a matter of days while he's on vacation in Tahoe? There's no way that is true. Like,
You're overlooking just how much of a calm, level-headed presence James Kennedy is.
But actually, if you have a dog with aggression, like, that is a journey in order to try to remediate and build trust with the dog, and try to like temper it and get to a point where a dog is no longer aggressive. And so there's no way that after a few days while on vacation that Graham is fine. Like, he didn't just need to chill out in Tahoe and crush some Coors Light with
I think that would work
Tom
for me.
Schwartz, but but yeah, the people that are making this out to be Puppygate 2.0 and using it as a way to like further bully Raquel, I think they can rot in hell.
Sure. I know nothing about it, but I co-sign it.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much for doing this. This has been a blast, Sean. Do you want to let everyone know where they can find you?
You can find me Sean's Haircut on the internet, and I think coming very soon you can find me on a podcast called The Devil You Don't, which I'm sure Dylan will mention something about.
Yeah, Dylan, let's hear about this.
Yeah, I guess I should start promoting it eventually. Don't know when it'll premiere yet, but me and Sean earlier this evening where they were sitting down together in a recording session, and I basically just like told him a whole bunch of details about a totally obscure like literary controversy from like colonial New Jersey. And the best part is I'm going to brand it as a cryptozoology podcast, guaranteeing that I'll piss off like 98% of everybody who clicks on it. So keep your eyes and ears open for The Devil You Don't coming at some point soon, probably in a few weeks.
Awesome. Looking forward to that. That's been Bravo Outsider for this week. You can find us on Instagram at Bravo Outsider. We're on YouTube at Bravo Outsider. We're on Twitter at Bravo_Outsider.
It's called X
We're on
now.
Threads. Oh, it's on. Yeah, you're right. It is. We're on X at Bravo_Outsider. We're on Threads at Bravo Outsider. Just you'll find us.
Just fucking Google it. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
How hard is this shit?
Go to our website, bravooutsider.com, and we've got links to most of those platforms. But subscribe to us on YouTube so that you don't miss an episode when it comes out. We'll be posting some clips throughout the week. And until next week, keep on wifing.
Until next week, steak.